Hello, how you doing? We're back. A little bit of a husky voice. Absolutely wiped out by flu for last week. Don't think I've ever been that ill as an adult. It's just nice to see. It's nice to have your health robbed from you occasionally to put everything into perspective. I hope you're well. The weather has turned if you're in the UK. Gosh, what a January. It is such a pleasure to have lighter evenings and birdsong and just that hint of spring around the corner. It's really hard to encapsulate how much joy I get from that every year. Just remembering that spring is possible as a concept. Anyway, today's episode is a conversation that we've been really looking forward to. Andrew's joined by Gareth Williams, who's a primary school PE teacher who started running Folke, which is a playful social movement session for adults in Folkestone in Kent. Andrew first stumbled across Gareth because he's very active on LinkedIn, and he takes what works as a good PE session and brings it to adults who maybe have spent years thinking that movement isn't for them and that physical activity is not something that they feel a part of. They talk about the differences between sport and PE and this idea of fitness and why so many people tense up about the idea of being watched or judged and feeling like you're doing it wrong. Just a lot here that resonates with us, obviously, with Wild Strong, but particularly with our projects in Nature Moves. It was just really exciting to see Gareth coming at this as a PE teacher and not coming out from a fitness background. Small morning, there's a storm in the background on our side because most of January 2026 was storm. So if there's a lag here and there, please do stick with it. The sound quality is okay. I think you'll really like it. If you're interested in community-based movement, this one is full of absolute gold. I'll see you at the other side.
How to stand on shifting sand. How to bend but stay intact.
Okay, I am here today with Gareth Williams, and Gareth is actually someone that I don't know that much about, and I mean that in the best way possible. I've really been trying to get more practitioners and people with on-the-ground experience working with adults and play and building communities. And I found Gareth's stuff on social media, and I just thought it was great. As soon as I saw it, I thought, yeah, that's someone who really gets it. So actually, just a few weeks ago, I sent you that message saying, would you like to come on the pod? And Gareth graciously said yes. So I'm excited because actually I feel like I'm going to learn a lot about you and your background and everything. I want to give just a warning to everyone listening. There's a storm in the background. So I've got a bit of lag and some audio issues. I think it'll be fine, but if I cut out or something like that, it's not because I've hung up on purpose. It's just a little bit of an audio glitch on my end. But anyway, Gareth, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'm just going to let you introduce yourself. So who are you and how'd you get here?
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me on as well. My first ever podcast. So I'm getting into the swing of things slowly. Forgive me. But yeah, my journey, basically, my name's Gareth. I'm a primary school PE teacher. Been qualified doing that for 6-7 years as a qualified teacher and over 10 years as a sports coach before that. And I moved to Folkestone on the Kent coast in England about 4 years ago from London. And I set up my little side hustle, if you like, Playfolk in the summer of 2024 as a sort of something that I'd been thinking about for a long time and wanted to do something with adults after spending most of my career working with kids, and just always felt that the things we do with kids, surely they'll work with adults. And I was never getting around to doing it. And I just decided summer holidays, got no excuse, took a few things back from school to use rather than investing too much to start with, set up the Instagram account, tried to get a bit of buzz, and started from there. And it's been slow going, but it's going well. It's slowly and steady. So basically, Playfolk is social fitness sessions for adults. So trying to get people to come along and enjoy some physical activity that maybe people that wouldn't necessarily choose to go to the gym or play sport, or maybe they had a poor or a negative experience and they've sort of been turned off ever since. So I've been trying to, as a PE teacher myself, knowing that the power of PE and sport and activity, and obviously myself loving it all my life, I wanted to try and get a bit of that across to a few more people if I could. And yeah, I threw a little Hail Mary into the wind, and yeah, it's still going strong and I'm really enjoying it.
So that's great, man. Yeah, the hardest thing we talk to people about this all the time. You just got to start it. If you have this idea in your head, you need to start it. And sometimes it's really hard to articulate. I thought you did a beautiful job of it because, people will ask, well, are you doing a boot camp or are you doing a gym? What are you doing? And, you're talking about this, this kind of social movement, playful movement for adults. And I think it's such an important space and it's so underserved. So I kind of want to unpack a little bit of your background. So you have quite a high level sports background. Like you played professional or semi-professional football. Is that right?
Yes. When I left school, I was there for a year at Crystal Palace, which weren't a Premier League club at the time, but obviously a very high level professional. But I trained full time with them for a year. Never made an appearance. Never played with reserves. You'll never find me on any of the websites, so people wouldn't believe me. But I was there for a year, and all that time I was playing semi-professional football as well. And then I left Crystal Palace. I've had a bit of a taste of full time professional sport, but never actually made it. And then played semi-professional for a good 10 years from that point on until kind of real life and work and family and stuff got a bit too much and I wasn't enjoying it anymore. So maybe about the age of 28, 29, I stopped playing seriously. And I'm now nearly 40. So it's been a good 10 years since I played that level, but I did play hundreds of games at that sort of standard and I have a lot of, an awareness of what it takes to be good, even though I didn't have it myself. I have a little bit of an insight into how good you have to be. So that's always been an interest of mine as well. It's understanding elite sportsmen and leadership and back professional sports. It's one of my hobbies is kind of reading and watching anything behind the scenes. So that will stem from just having a little taste of it myself. But yeah, no, I haven't played for a little while. But the PE teaching kind of gives me that sort of the physical activity buzz, even though I'm not particularly the person doing it anymore. And then obviously Playfolk has come on from that and has really sort of given it another level of excitement and interest to what has been a fairly active life for me. And now trying to give that bit of what sport and activity has given to me to other people.
One of the things I definitely want to get into in this conversation is sort of defining or thinking about the difference between sport, physical activity, and play. And I know it's something you talk about a lot, but just sort of continuing with your journey. So you played football at a high level, and then I guess eventually you decided you want to become a coach, going into a PE teacher. So you did all the training for that. And then obviously one day everyone has that experience when they're first, the first time you're in a classroom or the first time you're in a gymnasium with some kids. And then you kind of have this pedal hits the metal moment where you have all the stuff you learned in school maybe, and then you have your own experience. And then you just start to learn really, really quickly about what learns or what works, what doesn't work, what assumptions you had. So that's kind of what I'd like to really hear about is your early days as a PE teacher, making that transition from a professional athlete to all of a sudden working with kids. What did you learn about kids? What did you learn about PE? What did you learn about yourself? Because I think a lot of that really went into the work you're doing now.
Yeah, no, before I get into that, Jenny, let me just say I was never actually a fully professional footballer because if I let that slide, someone I know
Yeah.
is going to pull me up on that big time. I had a little taste of it, but I was never but I did play semi-professional, so it was kind of like I got paid a lot for, not a lot, but that was more than my job and put the two together and lived at home without real life commitments. And yeah, so I'll just get that before I get pulled apart by my wife mainly for saying I was professional when I wasn't. But yeah, no, so I started out trying to do everything but coach because I'd been playing at that level and I'd always been surrounded by sport. I kind of tried to sort of fight the sort of he plays and he coaches. I wanted to try and do something else. I didn't go to university at the age that everyone else did because I was chasing the football dream. That's what I was doing. I didn't go. And then eventually got to like 24, realized that this is not happening. And I worked in a carpet shop at the time and I seriously really hated it. And it was just, I was trying to avoid being that coach. I don't know why, but I had some kind of ego or pride stopped me wanting to be the stereotypical person who wears a tracksuit all the time. I wanted to do something else, but yeah, I just had enough of those kind of jobs. And one day I went out with the carpet fitters, saw how hard that work was, came straight home and booked my coaching badges. And that was the kick up to the bum that I needed a little bit. So yeah, I started collecting my badges and I worked for someone I used to play with actually owned a coaching company that worked in schools covering PPA and stuff. So I worked with him and I worked in lots of schools for him. And then I ended up being based at one school in particular, running it for him as a sports coach for the sports coaching company. and just teaching what he gave me to teach and teaching the curriculum that the school provided. It wasn't really any of my own doing. I was just watching and learning and picking up bits from him. And he was he was never not a qualified teacher, but he was an amazing coach and really could have been a great teacher. So I was lucky that I had him as my first kind of experience of working in schools. And then I was working at that one particular school, and the head teacher, the SLT come out and they observed the teachers, rightly or wrongly, but that's what they were doing. And they watched one of my lessons once, and the head teacher said, "What do you want to do with your life?" And I'm like 26 at the time, 27, just been coaching and not much else. And he said, "I think you should be a teacher." I was like, "Well, I can't be in my head, I'd always thought I couldn't be a teacher because I don't have good A levels. I didn't go to university. I don't have a degree. I know you need to have a degree to be a teacher." And he's like, no, but there's ways. And he showed me down the route of a part-time foundation degree at St. Mary's at Twickenham in London. He said, "I'm on the sort of board for that. You should go for it." And I'll recommend, and it got me onto that course. And I met some other people that were kind of higher level TAs or later in life working in schools that had also missed the boat a little bit for the degree, like for teaching, and they were trying to convert. And in this country, you can't be a PE teacher in primary school. You have to be a primary teacher that covers all the bases, or you do secondary and then you choose your subjects and you go down that lane. And I knew I didn't want to work in secondary because all of my background had been primary, and I really enjoyed the youngsters. I used to work in nurseries doing football tot sessions. I used to really enjoy all of that stuff. So I was like, I knew I wanted to work with younger kids, but I couldn't specialize just in PE for that. So I took the primary education course thinking it will get me to where I wanted to go eventually. Did the foundation degree, then finished that, did another 2 years of a BA at St. Mary's, and then qualified as a fully qualified classroom teacher at primary school. Always kind of knowing that I was doing it for the reason of getting back to working in sport and just getting paid a bit more, to be honest, brutally, because sports coaching, you get paid not very much unless you run the business. I knew I didn't want to run the business, but I knew I didn't really want to be a primary school classroom teacher for 30 years either. But to get the next rung on the ladder, I was like, I'll do it. And then I really enjoyed the class teaching, and I thought, well, maybe this is for me. And then COVID happened, and I'd been in the classroom maybe a year and a half, 2 years. And it was during COVID that I really sort of sat there and thought, no, get me back in the tracksuit. This is where I need to go. Because I was getting to that level of class teaching where I was kind of like the duck, sort of frantically paddling underwater and trying to keep calm on the top. And I was teaching year 3 or 4 children, so 7 and 8 years old, and I could just about wing it. But I was getting to the point where if I wanted to be a good teacher, I wasn't going to be able to wing it anymore. So what do I really want to do? Well, really, my background is sport. I love physical activity. I love PE. I want to go back down that route. And it was just, that was like, COVID was kind of a little bit of an awakening into like, I'm going to go back down this route and still have the qualification. So even in my job now, I still get used as a classroom cover if needed, but 90% of my job is teaching the PE in the school. So it gives me a couple of strings to my bow. But I'm definitely not up for full-time classroom return anytime soon.
To be fair, I think that's how a lot of teachers feel all the time. I did a lot of teaching. And I think, the general joke is you're always just 1 week ahead of the students most of the time, unless you're an old hand, you've been doing it for like 30 or 40 years and you have all your subjects memorized. You definitely feel like you're just kind of like looking in the book, making the plans.
Especially in a primary school where you've got to be, I have so much admiration for primary school classroom teachers because I've done it and I know I couldn't do it for much longer. And they do it and they make it look easy, and they've got to be able to cover 8, 9, 10, 11 subjects and kind of be good enough at them to, be the expert in the room for those children. And I just wasn't. And the only subject that I really had pure passion for and still do is PE. So I was like, well, I need to channel that and I need to go down that route. And so, after a couple of years of classroom teaching, I was always, when I was a classroom teacher, always taking other classes for PE as well, like, because it's not a subject that other primary school teachers really are confident in or want to teach. So I'd always be that guy like, well, if you do my music and my RE, I'll do your PE. And we kind of would sort of haggle and negotiate, and slowly I'd build up my PE around in the schools that I was working in, but always with the intention of trying to get back. But that's another thing about the UK. Unless you're working in the private sector, you can't really become a full-time PE teacher at a primary age group level. I'm very lucky working where I am now that the school wanted one, needed one, and I went for it and got it. But I'm very much the exception to the rule, which I, again, don't think is maybe the right way, but it is how it is. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm lucky to have the opportunity to still do 90% of my week is teaching PE to every single member of the school. And yeah, a few hours in the classroom every now and again, but not much.
So I want to talk about the learning curve of being a PE teacher. So you said you've been teaching PE for about 6 or 7 years now. So you came in, you kind of had this background, you did some coaching on the side. What was the experience like? What did you learn, from your early days? Or like maybe another way of looking at it is I know when I look at some of the things I used to do 6, 7, 10 years ago, I just kind of hold my face because there are a lot of assumptions and mistakes that I just made being inexperienced, but there are things that I learned from. So what are some things that you learned from in your early years?
Yeah, no, 100%. I definitely wouldn't be doing it the way I did it back then. But back then, that's all I knew, and that was what I
Yeah.
assumed that it was. And everyone's PE experience at school was probably the same in this country. It was quite sport heavy, sport based. You'd probably play matches in lessons. You wouldn't be doing so much of the sort of learning around the subject. It would just be pure sport. What can win, lose. Do 6 weeks of this sport, 6 weeks of that sport, 6 weeks of this sport. And I kind of just carried on doing that when I started in schools coaching, because that's what the schools wanted. That's what everyone knew. And I didn't really argue with it because it's what I knew. And I was good at sport. I loved PE. I'd always found it easy. So I wanted to keep on doing that. And it really was that sort of lockdown period where I had to send, remote learning back to my classes. And I was looking for more interesting sort of PE activities rather than, and there was all these indoor games with socks and roll up washing and in the garden. And I was like, just kept, when Twitter was a bit healthier of a place than it is now, maybe there was a lot of good PE educational resource that I sort of kind of stumbled across really. And once I saw it, it kind of opened my eyes and I was like, oh no, that's what I want. That's what it should be. I shouldn't be teaching for the people that were like me as a kid who loved it. They'll be fine. They'll be fine anyway. I need to kind of teach for the kid that doesn't enjoy it, the kid that this is their only physical activity experience, and that's what I need to be catering for. And it was a real mindset flip, and it was really that first. I got a long-term supply job out of COVID, where I was mainly the PE teacher, and I was just all my free time in that school. I was reading up about it, trying these games out because I knew I wasn't going there for a long term. So I was like, this is like my little opportunity to try it out because before I was a classroom teacher, I had been working in a private school, a big private school in London, and with amazing facilities and amazing resources. And it was a girls' prep school, and they played hockey, netball, hockey, netball, hockey, netball, hockey. It was that was it. And I really loved it. I loved working it. It was one of the best places I've ever worked. But I didn't argue or question it when we turned up off the coach and we were playing netball matches again. I was like, is this what PE is? Like, just always matches and always about the result, and fixtures are quite an important thing in private school life. And I'd always just gone along with it. And it was just that time of reflection in and away from that back setting and looking onto it and sort of educating myself a little bit. I came across people like Niall O'Brien at North Yorkshire Sport and Ryan Ellis, who does the PE Umbrella podcast, and just their games and their sort of fun ways of doing it sort of really resonated with me rather than the sport aspect. And I sort of kept on exploring it, and I just really found myself really changing my mindset. This is right. This is the way, especially for primary school age, where you're just trying to hook them into it and want them to do it. This is a much better approach than just because you could go into a primary school classroom and we're doing football now for 6 weeks and you lose 70% of the class straight away. Yeah. And it's hard to get it back. And 30% will love it, but those kids will love it. They'll be the ones playing on the playground anyway. They'll be the ones going to the grassroots, playing extra anyway. PE lessons at school, in my opinion, shouldn't be, that should be for all, but not particularly focused on those children that are going to be okay anyway, but maybe for the children that aren't going to pick it up otherwise. And kind of, I'm married to someone who's a bit like that. She doesn't like sport. We're very opposites in lots of ways. She grew up in a small town in Scotland. She was sent out on the netball court in January wearing, not enough clothes for that part of the world. Yeah. And it just turned her off completely. And I was like, I was making all these links and it was like, it all falling into place for me. I was like, well, that's why she doesn't like it. Can I do this to avoid that happening to people that I'm teaching? And then the germ of changing my PE teaching approach then sort of blossomed a few years later into, this is the play folk approach that I'm now trying to use it to change the narrative for all those people that are similar to my wife who really didn't enjoy it at school and really don't have a positive relationship with it because they didn't enjoy it, because it was sport, because it was technical, because it was tactical, because it was sort of yeah, a bit too much like the world weren't interested in.
I think that's great. I think it's such a strong point, and using your wife as an example is I think important because we do meet so many people where they hear the word P and you see them tighten up, or they get in a situation where they think they're going to have to play sport in front of people, and you see that people they just
That's what I'm discovering with all the people that are naturally finding their way to joining in play sessions. They are, I would say, 90% of people that had a negative school PE experience, that they feel pressurized in those situations. They don't like. I don't want to speak for them because they haven't directly told me this, but it's like the impression that I get from them that this is the kind of like, oh, no one's watching, no one cares, no one's. So we're just doing this silliness that I'm in control of, and I know where I want it to go, but they're just doing it for the pure sort of enjoyment of doing it, and they don't have to look in a mirror in the studio, in the gym. They don't have to feel like they're letting the team down if they drop the ball. Yeah, and that all comes from those mainly secondary, I reckon. But UK PE school experiences have, and the teachers weren't doing this on purpose. No one was doing this because they were setting out to turn people off. Everyone was coming from the same place, and they would luckily meet people like me as a kid who loved it, lapped it up, and they thought they were probably doing a great job as a teacher. But there's so many of those kids that got lost in it. And those kids are now the adults that I'm sort of working with. And it's a small little section of the world, my little town on the Kent coast. But like, I feel like if it's happening here, it must be everywhere as well. And also having my wife as a very close example of that made me sort of like the light bulbs were going off quite a lot during that time, sort of 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah, I want to talk more about that transition because I want to talk about the work you did at Playfolk. You talked about it a bit online. You kind of saying how you had these ideas bubbling up in your head and kind of I don't know, kind of swishing around, and then something happened in the summer of 2024. You decided you're going to go for it. So I kind of want. Can you tell me about like how all these ideas start coalescing? What it was that you started noticing, and then what was this vision that you had in your head when you decided to finally go ahead and give it a go?
So obviously after that initial sort of exposure to new ways of doing things and then putting it into practice and seeing that how much joy and fun children were having playing that way in PE lessons, still like a learning experience, but it's sort of framed in a different way. I came across a scheme of work called Beyond the Physical. Don't know if you've heard of it, but it's an amazing scheme of
Yeah,
work.
you turned me on to them actually. Yeah.
It's so good. It's quite I don't know how old it is actually. I think it was I was noticing it at around that same time, 5, 6 years ago, and I've been a big advocate of their approach. And I can't say that I'm a creator of all of these things. I've kind of magpied a lot from them. I give them a lot of credit. But everything they do, a holistic and inclusive approach to learning and PE lessons. Every time I did one of their activities, every time I did one of their schemes of work, every time I did a unit, they don't go by sport. It's not football, cricket, blah blah blah. It's 3-word units of learning, maybe like look, run, avoid, and target, control, combine, or shape, create, inspire, create, perform. And you could pigeonhole those things into those sports, but you don't actually have to tell the kids they're doing the things that will help them for the sports because you wrap it in those words. And it was just magic, like watching it work for me. And I always just had this feeling that if it works for the kids, surely it will work for the adults. And it just kept nagging at me. And I don't know why. I kind of grown up in London, I used to see adults meeting and throwing a frisbee around Clapham Common, or sort of I was vaguely aware of park play, which I know you've had the guys on from there before on the podcast. I was just looking for a little bit of an extra revenue stream from teaching, but without wanting to be a football coach again or anything like that. And I was like, what can I do? And I did see a park play. I thought, well, maybe I could do that. But then actually, that's kids. And I just really, really wanted to prove that I could do this with adults because I know I can do it with kids. So it was that thought that kept nagging away at me. I was like, I want to do this with adults. I want to prove that these games will work because I know this is not what PE was when we were at school. And I think it's the right way now, but I think there's so many people that missed out. So let's try and sort of use my experience, use their Beyond the Physical and so on. Not just those guys, but other places as well. But just using the things that I'd seen working in school, I was like, surely I can get people turned on back to enjoying this stuff. That don't want to go to the gym. And yeah, I just had to, I decided that summer 2024, I was like, right, if I don't do it now, I will never do it. I had 3 young kids. I had time ready to come up though, because they were still going to nursery in the summer holidays, or I am the PE department at my school, so I could take some equipment and nobody would notice, and I could not, and I'd use the park down the road from my house. So there was no cost. It was just, you got to just put it out there. And yeah, the Instagram account, and I got a lot of interest. And Folkestone's the kind of town where people do, like, it's an up and coming, it's creative, it's people try things in Folkestone. And it gave me the confidence to sort of want to do it. Because I thought people would have a go if they were living here, then they're more likely to have a go than maybe where I used to live in South London. I don't know. I was just kind of, all these thoughts were floating in my head. I was like, there was no evidence for any of this. It was just sort of vibes. But I thought I need to try. And I had actually, when I moved, because I've only lived in Folkestone for 4 years, when I first started living here, I didn't know anyone really. And I'd be traveling I work in Margate, which is about 45 minutes to an hour drive away. So I wasn't meeting anyone in Folkestone because I was always driving to Margate for work. And I went to a men's walking group, or a men's meetup group called the Folkestone Fellas. And it was such a good social and relaxed vibe. I was like, oh, I want to create this, but with my skill set. So it was like that was the final nudge when I went to the Folkestone Fellas mental health men's group. And it was just a relaxed walk, and you realise there's loads of people in your situation and new to town, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a good feeling. I like this a lot. This worked for me. Can I do this, but with something I'm good at, which is, PE and a physical activity. So it was kind of that, and I just put it on Instagram, put the post up. I'm going to be here at this time, trying to do this, and then I had to do it because I've put it out there, and it didn't. I did get a lot of interest online, but I've very quickly learned that Instagram likes and follows doesn't translate into physical people turning up. So that first night in August 2024, 3 people turned up. 2 of them I knew. One was staying with me for the couple of days, as friends, a family friend. One was a Folkestone fella that said, I like that idea, I'm going to come and help you, support you. And he was just doing it for that reason. And then one random person from Instagram that had seen it, liked it, and came along. Her name's Zoe, and she's still coming now. But if Zoe hadn't turned up, I think I would have walked away very sort of, oh well, it didn't work. But because Zoe turned up, and she had exactly the kind of right attitude towards it, and I just wanted to see what it was like. I wanted to try it. That sounds like good. I don't like doing exercise, but I like being social. I was like, bang. So I've got a lot to thank Zoe for turning up that night, because I wouldn't have carried on. And then by the end of that month, I was doing it for free. I wasn't charging for anything. I just wanted to do it as a sort of almost social experiment. And by the end of that month, I had a session where there was maybe 15, 16, 17 people turned up, and it was buzzing. And I was just walked away from it. My wife was there helping me recording it, because I needed to get content to sort of show people what it was. That was another thing I found hard at the start, was explaining it, or getting people putting up a post saying play folks, social fitness for adults, or playground games for adults. And then my wife I should call her by her name, Megan, sorry. Megan was like, I'll get in trouble for it. Megan was saying, but what is it? You know what it is. You understand it because you live it. But what is that? How are you going to get that person to make the leap? And luckily I live in a town where people make those leaps. It's kind of that kind of place. But I needed to get some video of what it was, and once I got 2 or 3 just tiny clips, even from that first session of playing one of the games, it got more people to come along. And then by the end of the month, it kind of snowballed, and that gave me the real sort of incentive to carry on. Having that last one of the month where it was a beautiful evening, and the park I used looks out over the English Channel. Like, you've got the views of the White Cliffs of Dover. The sun was shining. It was like heaven. It was like the PE lesson, the best PE lesson in the world. And I was like, this is it. It's never been quite as busy every week since, but it gave me the sort of, there's a need for this, and people were interested in trying it. So that was a really long answer. I'm sorry. But once I get going, I kind of keep rolling with it.
Yeah, I've got so many points from that I want to talk to you about. So it's good. I think we'll spend a lot of time here. Yeah, I mean, one of the things what you said about Zoe, man, you're right. It's just one person showing up can make all the difference. And for anyone who's never done this before, if you have this idea and you want to put yourself out there and start it, it can be so nerve wracking just starting. And I've talked to a lot of people who've tried to do this. And at first, it's just their parents or it's just their sisters. and you really have that thing. It's like, I don't think I could go on, but then someone shows up and someone else shows up, and it just sort of happens. So I mean, it's one of the things I really want to tell anyone who's thinking about something like this is, yeah, you just got to get the ball rolling. It can feel really, really difficult, especially those first few weeks, but then, hopefully it clicks and people sort of figure out what you're doing, and it is really important. You were talking about, in your conversation with Megan, with your wife, how she's like, you have to explain what it is. And I know what you mean because, same thing. And I think we were saying this off camera, but it's not gym. It's not boot camp. I don't like to use the word fitness. You don't like to use the word fitness. It's not sport. So you've been doing this for a while. So if you were going to just like explain to someone, on the bus or the classic elevator pitch, how would you explain it to someone what it is that you do?
Yeah, good question. I should be good at this by now, shouldn't I? But yeah,
I'm not either. Don't worry.
I feel like it's definitely something that once you come along and you do it and you get it straight away, or if you see the Instagram reel, you get it straight away. But if you're just pitching it blind, basically it's playground games for adults. It's using all the games that I use successfully in P lessons and in a primary school setting, but taking the best bits of those things and adapting them slightly and putting them on for adults and letting people just come. And it's also, I do sell the social side of it a lot as well. I say, like you said, we're not a boot camp. We don't start on time. We have a waffle. We have a chat. If people are getting, are tired and struggling, as an experienced PE teacher, I can see that and I can run with it, and I will have a longer break, or we'll have a chat. And it was the Folkestone Fellows kind of walk and talk kind of attitude towards it as well, which I think maybe relaxed a few people into coming to having a try, because they knew it wasn't going to be like 7 o'clock sharp, get down, give me 100. Like, it is not that.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be that. And if it means out of the hour session, we spend half an hour doing activity and half an hour gassing and chatting, and fine. If that's your gateway into doing it, then that's what I'll provide, because that's what I really found at the start was, I initially set it up as a bit of a side hustle, if you like. I wanted to make some more money, but as it quickly turned into, actually, I'm really enjoying the community aspect of it, and the right people are finding me eventually. The people that want that thing that they don't know what it is, and I don't know how to explain it to them, but they kind of see it online, or they have a friend who's been and recommends it, and they come and give it a go. And once you give it a go, yeah, people are smiling, laughing, joking, not worried about what anyone else is thinking, and they're in, and that just gave me the motivation to keep on doing it like that. Keep it loose, keep it relaxed. If you're not feeling it, just step out for a minute. Don't play that game. If you want to walk, I try and create loads of opportunities where there's places to hide in the game. Obviously, it depends on how many people I've got, but lots of the games are tagging-based games, chasing, tagging, different names. Call it the kids' names, like aliens and astronauts, I don't know, or they're all variations on a theme, but it gets people thinking they're not working out. It's kind of, I was always going for the disguised fitness angle, but without telling people it's disguised fitness, because you just do it and then you realize, oh, actually that was a bit of a blow. It's primary school games, but designed for adults to be able to access and play. So, and it's working. It's finding the right people. As I say, like the gym bunnies, the people that are going to do it anyway, the people that are going out for their runs, they're not my crowd. And initially I was trying to get those people, because I'm like, well, these are the people that are active. These are the people that will come and do some activity. But actually, Folkestone's a bit of a running town, to be honest. Like, there's so many people doing run, and there's no physical activity is bad activity, but it's not my choice. I wouldn't go. I was a goalkeeper for a reason. I'm not a runner. but the people that come to me aren't runners either, and the people that come to me don't feel comfortable in a gym setting either, or don't want to commit to that spend, or don't want to, be judged on their appearance or things like that. And I was like, right, as soon as I worked out who was coming in that first few weeks, I was like, right, this is working, but I have to do it for these people. A bit like the primary PE lesson not being for the talented kid. Obviously, they'll get what they need out of it, and I can challenge them if they need it, but it's not really about them, it's about the others. And I was kind of looking for the others, but as adults, which is a niche crowd to find. And they're lovely people, and I'm so grateful that they have come along and they've joined in. But there must be more out there. I want to do it more. I want to do it all the time now. I want to do it eventually. This will be my job, whether that turns into sort of across the country or just doing this area really well.
Yeah.
That I'd love it to be like more than teaching eventually, because it's given me a real sort of buzz of and a real bit of burst of energy again into, yeah, I'm going to try this at school because I want to do it for play folk, which is kind of maybe the wrong approach if you're thinking as a pure teacher and for the kids. But I'm like, all my mindset is now, yeah, that could work for this. Still doing my job, obviously, professionally as much as I can, but I just keep finding myself thinking about it. And I feel like if you keep on thinking about it, there must be a reason why. So I do eventually want to turn it into something. But yeah, life's busy at the moment. So at the moment, 1 hour a week, but with bigger things to come, hopefully.
One of the things that we found, we work with people at different age groups. So we work with families. We'll do family movement days, and probably most of the people we work with are adults in their 30s and 40s. But we do a lot of work with older adults as well. 65 plus, people in their 70s, a few people in their 80s, and as gratifying as I found it working with adults, especially adults who don't think of themselves as physically active or physically capable or whatever, working with older adults again has just been so much more rewarding, and playing the games with them is great. So that's one of the things I'll say. And the really one of the really nice things about working with older adults is it opens up other hours of the week, where when other people are busy, whether they're work or school or whatever. I've one of my favorite classes that we teach every week is we have I think we're actually going to move it till 10 o'clock in the winter, but we do a 9 o'clock on Fridays. And it's just a lot of older people in the area. Man, it is great just getting them coming out, playing games, being silly, and they cheat and
Yeah, this
they
is
don't
the thing.
respect me.
No, I love it. Like the thing that in our sessions, we have like that big age range. Like I've had 16, 17-year-olds come in because they came with their sort of their aunt or someone. But the majority of people are 30s, 40s, 50s, but we've had adults in their 60s, 70s that have come and joined in and been part of the same session as a 16, 17-year-old, and nobody notices the difference. And they
Yep.
take it at the pace they need to take it. If they're competitive, they try hard. If they're not competitive, they're just doing it for the social. They run around and be a bit silly. They definitely cheat. But then
Yeah.
I also have to remember that was a nice thing about it. And what I really enjoy about it is I'm not at school. I don't have to be that behavior monitor either. But these are all
Yep.
people that have chosen to be there. They're all grown adults.
Yes.
They've invested their time. They're paying me a little bit of money for it, but they've made the choice. So let's make it an enjoyable, positive experience as much as I can. And yeah, no, let the cheating happen, or it's just part of the
Yeah.
silliness. It's part of the having a chat in between about, oh, you did it, and just the joking, and people feel much more sort of
Yeah. It's
relaxed when
fun,
that
isn't it?
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the start, I was initially I found myself explaining the reason why we're doing this game, or what have you tried that? And then a couple of them just looked at me like, shut up. Like, we're just here to play. It's like,
Yeah.
and I kind of and also Megan again. Like at the start, she used to come once or twice a month and film, and she's like, "Why are you talking to them so much? That you're not
Yeah.
teaching them. You don't need to teach them. You're not." It's quite hard to turn that off after when you've been doing it for 10, 12 years, as I
Mhm.
have. But now I've kind of I turn up, I set the game up, I give them a quick 10 to 20 seconds rules, off you go. And then once people know the games because I repeat some. I try and come up with a new one every couple of weeks, or magpie something from somewhere. But a lot of the games they can just go, and they don't need to be told why they're doing it. They're just doing it for the sake of it. And yeah, I've learned from
Mhm.
that as well. And I don't do that anymore. It's just put the game on, have a laugh and a joke, do the next one, have a drink, do the next one, and an hour flies by.
Yeah, it's funny. It's one of the habits I still have. I still talk a lot, and I notice the more I do this, the more comfortable I am with speaking less and less. And you definitely see it in younger coaches or facilitators where they really want to talk all the time. And I'll just say, let the activity speak for themselves. One of the things I want to pick your brain on, and this is just, I really want to see how you do it. How do you handle like inclusivity on games? Like, let's, if you are working with like you said, people who are 16, 17, 18, or, people in their early 30s, people in their late 60s, mid 70s. Do you have any tips or tricks to make sure everybody has a good time and everyone feels like they can get involved?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of the games that if I was to do them at school, obviously the kids are much faster, hyper, more sort of energetic naturally. And there'll be people that come to my sessions that aren't going to be able to sustain that for a long amount of time.
Mhm.
So the games that I do, like I said, there's opportunities to hide, there's opportunities to dip in and out, to walk it or jog it. It makes no difference. You find the success wherever you find the success at your level. I don't put any pressure on anyone. So I kind of try and cherry pick the games So they're not too intense. They can be intense if you want to make them intense, but if you don't want to and you just want to do the activity, then it still works. It doesn't need to be. You need to be quick for this. I try and play a lot of games that don't rely on sporting skills, being able to throw and catch, being able to. So a lot of kids' games I might play where the people are down on the floor and then up again. But people that come to my session maybe find that difficult and they don't want to do that. And also it tires them out. These guys are people that had a negative, maybe PE, physical activity experience. If I went in there as a bit of like I would at a school lesson, within 15, 20 minutes, they wouldn't be able to move anymore. Not for want of trying, but it's just they're not used to it. So it's kind of take it slow. Like I said, we don't start on time. We have a little chat and sometimes we play a game and it takes a bit more recovery time. Great, no worries. We'll just have a hang out. And sometimes I feel like I'm interrupting the chats to get the next one done. I feel bad. Like everyone's, and that's the nice thing. Like it's a social experience for the people that come. They've all become friends since, and I kind of, with the experience of teaching day in, day out, all day, every day, kind of learned to pace it. It just, and step back when I need to step back and step in when I need to step in and let it run. And I got to remember that all these games, even though they're part of my life for the last 10 years and even before that, these are all new things for these people that come in.
Yes.
All of these activities that I've done so many times in my life that I can do them with my eyes closed. I can run it without even paying much attention or looking like I'm paying much attention. But for them, it's like, wow, well, this is a brand new, like I've never, and they really jump at it. And I'm like, oh, then I see actually, yeah, this is working for them at the pace they need to do it. So yeah, I wouldn't go in there hard because yeah, you'll burn out. I mean, the games work, whether there's 4 people at the session or 40 people at the session, the games work if you want to do it intense. So I feel like I could go to a semi-pro football team, work with the first team, play those games, put a football involved and add in a little layer or two and work them. And it would be an intense workout. But I can also play that exact same game, maybe take the football out, but account for the level of fitness and confidence of the people that are there, which also takes a lot of sort of faith in your own being there, because I don't really plan the sessions because I don't know who's going to be there and I don't know where they're at. I do have regulars, but obviously the regulars aren't always the same regulars. So I always joke with them, if you lot all turned up at the same time, we'd fill this hall. But people's lives get in the way and I'm not in charge of, like, I can't make people come every week and I have to, but sometimes there might be 15, 16 people of a certain age and fitness ability, but then sometimes there might be 6 or 7 people and 3 of them are, less physically capable than the other 3. And you've got to kind of, but having the confidence and the experience of the teaching means I don't fret by that kind of thing. I kind of like play it by ear as we're going. And I've got this many 100 games in the back of my head ready to go. And I've got this game, but if I change it like that, then it'll work for these guys. Or if I do it, but I don't include that bit, then it'll work for these. And all these decisions that naturally happen as a PE teacher, like you could walk into a PE lesson, it looks like absolute chaos. And I'd love people talking to my PE lessons and it looks like chaos. And then come and ask me about it and I'll be able to explain exactly what's going on. But people think I'm just standing there watching them doing it. So like you have that, I'd like to try and bring that to the play folk sessions. Like I look like I'm not really I'm maybe filming a bit of content or I'm walking around, I'm giving them some encouragement, but I'm always thinking about how can I change this rule, add that game, change the size, change the space, change the amount of people in it, make the teams fair if we're doing a team thing. Just so all I want people to do is walk away and they've had a positive experience. And that's how I see my job at school, is that, especially in primary school, there's no real goals to hit in PE. There are, people can take assessment serious, but for me, leaving primary school, I want kids to not hate PE. That's my job.
Yeah. Don't
hate PE, because when you get to secondary, for right or wrong reason, secondary becomes very sport, very sort of rigid. And I think my style of doing stuff would work in a secondary as well. I've just never had the opportunity. But yeah, don't leave primary school hating it because you were bored or because you felt like you couldn't do it, which is what then turns into the adults that hopefully I'm maybe to try swinging back again through my sessions. Yeah. And I'm not some great, there's hundreds of people doing this kind of thing across the country. I don't think I'm unique, but I feel like that it should be my job, is A, with the kids, they leave school, they don't hate it, and B, with the adults, they come and they go, oh, that wasn't that bad actually, or oh, like that was really fun, or oh god, I'm knackered, like I'm sore the next morning, but actually, you know what, I didn't notice I was doing that. Or if I can get them to walk away feeling that, then I've done a I've done a good session. So yeah, kind of again another one that's hard to explain unless you kind of see it in action or kind of feel it, or watch it. So yeah, I'd encourage everyone to get onto the Instagram account at play_folk and look at the videos and the reels, because of it kind of all you see are smiling faces, and all you see are people running and not caring, and all you see are people just having a bit of a fun time, really. And that's all I want it to be. And if it leads on to being like a gateway for them into the more serious sport, or they think, oh, actually, I'm not that unfit, I could go to the gym because I've done some of these. If people move on to something else and they don't come back to me, but I've been part of it, then that's all good for me as well. If people, this is the only thing they ever do, they come once a week to me because they like the social and they enjoy the games, great, I've ticked that box as well. Like, it's very broad, my aims. But as long as people are doing some physical activity and they go away with a smile, or they enjoyed it, then I feel like that's all you need to do.
I think it's one of the things that's underappreciated sometimes, and sometimes I get cross on LinkedIn because I'll see posts, people saying like, "Oh, the one that's going around right now is a lot of people are saying, oh, I'm so sick of people saying something's better than nothing because, it's not, or we need to hit these special bespoke prescribed exercises and things." And I know what they're coming from. I know where they're coming from. They're thinking of, in this perfect world, wouldn't it be great if everyone can work at a certain intensity, a certain volume, get these movements in and work on, work on osteoporosis or longevity. And all that is true. That would be great. But you got to meet people where they are. And I think one of the things that is really underappreciated is if you can just get people to start moving and get them to have a good time, it creates a snowball effect. And all of a sudden, people are more likely to playing games with their grandchildren or with their family, or they're more likely to try, jumping over a fence, or they're more likely, if they see people at a park, playing frisbee or something, they're more likely to feel like that's open to them. And I feel like it's so easy to dismiss that when people become obsessed with trying to quantify things as if we were in a gym or working with an exercise physiologist and things like that.
Yeah,
I'll
100%.
give you a chance to
No,
respond.
it's
Yeah.
why like PE isn't treated as such an important subject that it should be, especially at that primary age, because that's the bit where you get them where you don't. Um, and then if someone leaves primary school and they don't like PE because they just play football matches and they're rubbish at football and they don't like it, then when they're a parent, they're not going to take their kid to the park because they have a subconscious kind of bias against physical activity, and that just came. It's so easy to fix that in my head. I mean, I don't have, the any sort of data on that yet, because the kids I've been teaching are not adults yet, but I like to think that if they've been under me for any amount of time, that once they go, I'm not their teacher anymore, they go to a different school, they grow up, they're adult, they don't think back to school and think, oh, that was horrible, that lesson, or I used to hate PE, I did the bleep test, or I did laps, or I stood on the pitch and I forgot, and I froze for like 20 minutes because I didn't touch the ball. I stood in the queue for ages. Like, all of these things, you'll never see a queue in my lessons. You'll never see,
Mm.
and I try not to get that into play. I don't mind a little queue in a play folk session because it's an opportunity to rest and people can find their own space and they're
Yeah.
adults and they can choose how hard they go. But as a kid, like, just get them moving, just get them going. And you soon find that they'll do the learning for themselves. And that's another thing about the beyond the physical approach that I really enjoy, is the lesson plans maybe look like there's only just one or two things. I'm like, well, how's that going to fill the time? But actually, if you just let it breathe, that's why I quite enjoy working indoors at the moment in the gym, because I put the music on in the background. And I'm someone that would maybe rush too soon to change the activity. But if I've got music playing and the kids are kind of engaged, I'm like, one more song, one more song, and then you'll see something that came out that wouldn't have come out if you just stopped it earlier. And that's more of the PE lesson, primary school kind of thing, than what I do actually do at a play folk session. I do have some music in the background, so it helps feel not that there's silences, but if there's anyone who doesn't know people, it doesn't feel like it's awkward and quiet. There's a bit of music going on, and if I can't talk to that person right now, they're not at least standing on their own in silence and having an opportunity for a negative experience. But yeah, I don't have. So I went. Yeah, this was interesting. I went to the Active Kent and Medway conference, which is like our county region conference, and they asked me to share the story on Playfolk. And at the first time I'd ever been able to do anything like that. And luckily my head teacher was really understanding and said, yeah, go, it's great for your sort of, and I shared the story and I showed a video on the screen, and the interviewer was a great professional slick, like TV style news reader interviewer, does this kind of conference stuff all the time. And he was feeding me, but as soon as I put the video on it was one of our beach sessions, I just felt the energy in the room change. Like they'd been listening to stories about people that were like all good things, but like people, refugees meeting for walks down the coast, or this group of people meeting up for disability cycling sessions. And it was like all things that people in this industry had heard a lot of before, or was like, yeah, good. And I was last, and they put the video on, and it was all my lot running around like idiots on the beach. And I just felt the room sit up. You know, there's like 200 people in the room, and the room just, I didn't even look out, but I just felt it. And I was like, and I walked off the stage after showing and explaining it, only like 3 or 4 minutes of talking. And I had people queuing up to ask me stuff about it. And like, you should do this. You need, it was like another light bulb, like, oh yeah, there's a need for this. It's not just my little Folkestone bubble of 9 or 10 people every week that, you know, enjoy this. Like there's scope for this, like an over 50s group, a refugee group, adults with learning difficulties group. There's so many pots that you can adapt these games for. And I don't even remember what your question was anymore, because this is what happens to me. I kind of get into it and I get passionate and I start rambling a little bit, but I just get people moving and enjoying it. And the rest will take care of itself. And yeah, the beyond the physical point I was trying to make, I've just remembered, was just be more of a facilitator of it. Let it happen. Whereas where I did a lot, because I was from that sport background where you're told what to do, where to be, how to do it. Well, this is the technical way that you do it. You need your right hand there and your left hand there. And this is it. And everyone lines up and they throw the javelin in the same way, or everyone like lines up and you practice 20 chest passes in a line. Oh God, it's so boring now. But I used to do that because that's all I used to know. I used to put on lessons like that. And now I'm like, oh wow, like head in the hands. But beyond the physical games, they just leave them, let them breathe, and it will just go. And you can chuck in a little question here or there where some kids will find a different way of doing it that you'd never thought of. Or if you put out a load of equipment, like I always leave out in the corner, like balls of different sizes, bibs, noodles, bean bags, quoits. You go and choose the piece of equipment you want to do it with. Well, I don't want you to have the same piece of equipment at the end of this time than when you started with. And that's all I say to them.
Yep.
And I set up the game. I give them the bare minimum basics, and then they just let them do it. And I get to walk around and enjoy watching everyone doing things how I didn't expect they were going to do it. Or they find a bit of success doing it with a bib because it's slower and it gives them an opportunity to catch rather than the ball that they wouldn't. Rather than having 20 kids all stood in a line doing the same thing, they can play that. They can do that activity, but find their own way of finding some success, and know that no one's really judging them because other kids are too busy doing it their way to even notice how you're doing it. But me as a teacher, helicoptering around the room, I'm noticing and I'm looking and I'm like, yeah, that was great how you thought about doing that. And I just wanted that to be the kind of way I do things. And yeah, like Playfolk, I won't ever make it a big deal about winners and losers and stuff like that. It's like, you did it, great, well done. That's all you need to say. You don't need to get into it too much. You just need to be like, make someone feel good that they did it.
Yeah. What you said, you said it a few times. And the first time you said it, I wrote it down because I just loved it. Let it breathe, and it's one of the things I'm always sort of telling new coaches as well. It's just, let the activity breathe, see what comes out of it. And, there's a bunch of jargon stuff we can talk about like, constraints-led approach or self-organization or task-based training, things like that. But really what it comes down to is just giving people an opportunity to move and try things out and have a great time. And I think that's what really comes through. And it's like we were saying off camera, so many different people are sort of converging on the same thing. Because you said it yourself, there's a need for this. We know that people hit a certain age and they don't get opportunities to move anymore, especially if they didn't consider themselves sporty, or, maybe they age out of a sport. I'm 42 now and I have a lot of friends who their entire lives they played rugby. And man, if you're still trying to play rugby with your friends in your mid 40s, it gets tough. So we need to find these outlets, I think, that aren't the gym because, the gym is great for some people, but it's not for everybody, and not everyone wants to get into cycling. I'm the same way as you. I'm not a runner. I've got no interest. Like I try to run my 5K a few times a week, but for me, it's just something that feels obligatory. I don't love it. I'm never going to run a marathon. I don't see the point of it. So yeah, it's like, how do we make these play, opportunities? How do we get people, more adults outside playing? And I guess that's kind of the question I'd like to leave you with. We talked a little bit about before. I mean, do you have any tips? How can we get more people outside playing, using their bodies, moving? What are some tips you can just sort of give for anyone else who's thinking about starting something?
I think it is kind of just taking the pressure off it, because whether you're trying to or not, even just surrounded by people on social media posting their fitness journeys and like this is the time of year for it. It's January, it's boot camps, it's personal trainers, it's all everywhere, and people think they've got to reach this certain ideal of something. And what I say, I'm not a person. I say to the people that come, I'm not a personal trainer. You're not going to change your body coming to my sessions. You're not going to. I don't know how to do that for you, but what I do know how to do is facilitate fun activities that I would know work with kids. And so I would say, so take the pressure off it. Make people feel like they're not being judged on anything. Take it real slow. Don't be in a rush. So I'm sort of 18 months into this now, and I still only get maybe sometimes 7 or 8 people come in, and I've learned to not be down by that, because there's still 7 or 8 people that are doing something they wouldn't have been doing before. And when they are double that amount, which there are sometimes, it's a real great fun buzzy, but it doesn't devalue the sessions that don't have that many people. And it's like, that took me a little while to get my head around. And first of all, like trying to learn the social media. Like if I wanted to run a business, I'd have done it 10 years ago, but I went down the teaching route. I'm not a natural businessman, but I have this idea and this passion that I want to turn into something that could be a business viable in the future. I'm like learning the Instagram, trying to like master the algorithm. I don't know. Sometimes it flies and sometimes it doesn't. And I have no real working out why, but just keep putting it out there. Just keep putting the session on, just keep turning up, and people will find you. Like I said, I had 3 people at my first session. I had 15 people at my 4th session. And then for the next 3 months, I had no more than 5 or 6 every time. And then January happened and I thought, January, this is going to be it. Everyone's going to get fit and want to come out. And this is going to be, it was my quietest month I've ever had, that January last year. This year's bucked the trend, thankfully. But and I had that moment of like, oh, this isn't going to be a quick fix. This isn't going to be an overnight quit my job thing, which, I think maybe I went into it thinking, well, everyone should agree with this because I think it's right. But I finally sort of realized that the community that you want and the community that you're trying to get to will find you. You just got to keep turning up and being there and offering them the opportunity. And I've had loads of people that have come once, said they really enjoyed it and haven't actually come back or found time or been back at bits and bobs, and they don't turn themselves into week by week regulars, but they've had an experience of it and they'll not say anything negative about it. And I'm like, well, there you go. And Folkestone's a small town, and I feel like I can't walk out around town without knowing someone who knows me, either via the Play Folk session or someone they know does it, or they've seen it on Instagram, even though they've never been. So just even putting it out there on Instagram and having that message going around and people, oh, what's that? And they watch the reel and they never come, but they see it and it's an opportunity. And that's kind of what gave me like a lot of the sort of get up and go to try it, was living in this town and following everything you can on Instagram and seeing so many things that are happening in town, like I don't know, music nights and craft workshops and stuff like that. Just feeling like, oh, I know that's there. I'm not going to do it, but I know that this is a town that offers that. And then eventually in 2 years, that person might come to a session and that might be the person that snowballs it. So like, just keep trying. Like I did get disheartened quite a bit at the start, thinking, oh no, there's not 20 people here. There's not, I'm not making any money. But I don't need to. I've got that sort of balance of, I've got the safety net of the full-time job that covers everything I need to. I don't need to. I'd love to take it full-time tomorrow, but it's not a good way of approaching it. Putting all your eggs in one basket. I don't think. I want to slowly build, do it right, learn what I need to learn, and eventually in a year or two, maybe I can be part-time teacher and I can be part-time play folk, and then in 5 years I can be, and being patient, I think, is the big thing that came out of that. And I wasn't patient at the start. And I've always been good at things like the PE or the coaching or the playing football. I've always been good and get on an immediate result. And I haven't been able to get an immediate result with this. But I've also never done something for as long as this that I've been interested, like even jobs like this. I've quit jobs within a first year of working there. And I've done this for longer than some of the jobs I've done, in teaching included. So like, it just keeps getting me. I can't not do it because I know it will work out eventually. I know it's a good idea. I know people need it. And I feel like if anyone else is thinking about setting something up because they've got that niggle, just get out and have a go. And yeah, don't be disheartened if it doesn't go straight away, which it won't probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure you've been on
That's
that journey as
that
well.
is.
You're further down the line than I am, but I'm sure there were times. I mean, I don't want to bring up Joe Wicks as a PE teacher because that's going to start a whole new podcast. But he had no one turning up for
Yeah.
months, for
Yeah.
years. He does a different thing to me, but like he had, and now look at him. Like, he's not a PE teacher. I'm
Yeah.
not getting into that, but like I admire what he's
Yeah.
done, and I admire I can see that as a path. There's a guy I used to work with I used to work in a leisure centre. My first job was a leisure centre job, and one of the PTs there was a really nice guy, and he's still in my hometown. And he does classes where he's the guy at the front. Everyone copies his moves. He's really fun. He makes everyone feel included. They love it. It's great. And he does 3 sessions a week, and he gets over 100 people at every single session in a small town, South London.
Yeah.
He did his name's Ant Nyman. I'll give him a shout out because he's been really supportive with me. Like, we do different things, but when I started, I was like asking him for advice, and he's like, just be patient. It will happen. Because he was like, 15 years ago, no one was coming to me. Now look. And so he's not doing what I want to do, and I don't do what he want. He knows how to change your body. He knows, like, he's a gym person, but he's a great inspiration to me to be like, oh yeah, like maybe in 5-10 years there's going to be folk groups everywhere. There's going to be hundreds of people doing it. There's going to be a play park, those kind of people. Like, I don't do park run, but you see park run that started small, and people are doing it. And again, I'm not a runner. I've always, I don't know if I want to say it, but I've always had this idea as a marketing kind of thing for me. And I say this to the people that come to the session, and I'll probably get shouted at by Megan again for saying this on the podcast, but I've always wanted to use the line, you never see joggers smiling.
Yeah.
Because it's hard work, and they're getting what they want out of it, and they get their buzz, and it works for them, and they enjoy it. I'm not saying that it's not a good thing, but as a sort of selling point for mine, when you look at the videos and the reels on mine, everyone's smiling. And I don't always notice that sometimes, but it's when I go back through my phone and look at what I filmed, I'm like, they're all smiling. That's what gives me the validation to like keep going, because it is working, because they're enjoying it, even if they're not saying it to me or explicitly making mention of it. But I'm like, yeah, the smiles are enough. And like I said, that Kent and Midway conference, I keep going around in massive circles here. But what I started that for was because people were like, so what's your data? Because if you want to be like get grants and funding for this, which is where you should go, because there's absolutely a need for it. You need to be a CIC, you need to do this. I'm like, I will do it, but I haven't got data. And I was like, but they're like, that's what they'll need. I'm like, yeah, but that video is my data. The smiles and the enjoyment on the people's faces that made everyone in that room sit up and take notice of me, that's my data. I'm going to eventually have to actually come up with some actual one to get the, maybe funding and grants in the future. But for now, the people coming back and the people enjoying it when they're there, that's kind of what keeps me going. I'm like, yeah, this is an idea that's got some legs.
Yeah, man. I know what you mean, and you'll understand what I'm about to say here. Sometimes after a long week, you've been doing other stuff, and you've got the class, you've got the play group coming up, and you're a little bit tired, whatever. But then you go, and as soon as it starts and you see those smiles, and by the end, I probably feel more energized after the play classes than anything else I do in the week, because it is so infectious. When you see a group of adults just having a great time, you realize, man, there's something to this, and it is providing something that's just not available. The advice that you gave about be patient and stick with it, I think is so important. Just the importance of kind of sticking with it. And
it's just being realistic. It's like, I'd love someone to listen to this podcast and agree with everything I said and say, here you go, Gareth, here's £100,000, quit your job, go and do it. I'll be like, yes, 100%, but also realistic, knowing that that's not really going to happen, but I've got to keep doing it anyway because I believe in it.
Yeah. And I mean, what I'll say is all this is becoming so much more legible than it was a few years ago. We've been doing this for a few years now, and leading with play and exploration and things like that 4 or 5 years ago, nobody knew what we were talking about, but people understand now. And I think a lot of that changed after COVID. I think after COVID, people realized the importance of being outside and community and things like that. And now all of a sudden, we talk to people, it's like, yep, totally understand what this is about. There's a big need for it. So that is changing.
It's the
And,
connect. It's
I
the
think it's
connection,
changing the
the
better. Yeah.
connection and the belonging that people are looking for. Because there's this, and I agree. Like I get, especially now, I use my phone a lot more for following people and finding game ideas and keeping up with my numbers on my whatever social medias. But I'm like, you just need to do something real sometimes.
Mhm.
And that's what the Folks and Fellas thing, initially going all the way back to the start, was for me. It was like it was some engagement with people that felt the same way as me. And it wasn't in a physical, it wasn't in a sport, it wasn't, because I'd always grown up in dressing rooms and been around it, and automatically 3 times a week got the, I hate the word, but banter, and I got the sort of feeling of involvement, and I was good at it, and I got paid for it, and I played in front of crowds, and I got the buzz that way. And then I taught, and I loved teaching them to start with. But then after a few years, it becomes a job, and it's just what you do, and you're good at it, but you just sort of take it for granted. And then moving to a new town, it was like, oh, this is all great. Oh, I don't know anyone. But then I went to the walk, and I was like, oh yeah, I like these people. I don't speak to all of them. Don't go on all the walks anymore. But it was enough of a thing to make me go, yeah, I need to do that with my skill set, because I do have a skill set, and I did come at it the long way around. I didn't qualify as a teacher till I was 32. I did it a different way, but it gave me some good sort of, the worst day at school is still better than the best day at the carpet shop kind of thing. And then when you take that into
Yep.
Playfolk, I'm like, oh, the worst Playfolk session is still a buzz. It's still a good thing. Like if you compare it to what I could be doing or what I need, what other people have to do, I'm still lucky that I get the opportunity to do this.
I think that's a good place to end. So, Gareth, thanks so much for your time. I really enjoyed it.
No worries. Thanks for having me on.
Day, night. It's a daily exercise. It's a daily exercise. It's a daily exercise.
So that's Gareth. Thank you very much, Gareth. You can find more about his work and Playfolk by visiting their website, which we have linked in the show notes. Just thought that was a really great episode. Lots of takeaways. Thought that the big message is patience. Keep turning up, keep it low pressure, and let people find a way in that works for them. And I really liked his line about smiles as data. Thank you very much, Gareth. Hope you guys enjoyed that as much as we did. I hope you have a good few weeks. We will be back in a couple of weeks with a conversation with Dan from Parkour Generations, who came on one of our first podcasts. And he's back because he just has lots of great things to say about movement and learning. So tune back in for Dan Edwards in a couple of weeks.